I cannot say it loud enough or hard enough, but bring God into your marriage in every single aspect, because there are going to be times that you're just not on the same page at all. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, after losing somebody you're connected to, see, here's the difference. And I talk about this in my book about widowhood. Jesus didn't come to conquer divorce. Okay. He came to conquer death.
Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori.
And we are your Unlikely Housewives. Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go. Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. Oh, man. We laughed a lot. We laughed a lot in this episode.
Yes.
And if we gave you the topics, like you would
not think we should be laughing.
No. I mean, you would be like, oh my God, this is going to be so heavy and so hard. And I mean,
what a beautiful perspective though, of like so heavy and so hard on the topics. And we'll just say, I mean, we're talking domestic abuse, divorce, being widowed, like all the things. Mm-hmm. And what a light she has to shine on such hard times, yet gives all the glory to God and the whole way through.
Yes.
And highlights like all the things he said to her and what they walked through and how she saw him in all of it.
Yes.
Like beautiful perspective.
And how God has given her because she talks about it, the first husband who she experienced domestic abuse from and ended up leaving with divorce. And then her second husband, Jay, and how hard, like unimaginably difficult that marriage was. She was like, you would totally think it was the opposite.
Yeah.
And she said her second marriage was much harder. And she does. God has given her just a beautiful perspective and such a story to share. And the fact that she lovingly shares it.
Yeah.
And just wants to encourage wives. I mean, because she does. She tells us, like, you don't want to miss out on this. Yeah. Like, you could, yeah.
I think one of my favorite little pieces that she shared at the end was just like, sometimes you just get stuck in a snag in your marriage, but you dwell on it so much and make it such a bigger issue that's not really a big deal. And if you just took a minute and took that away completely, like pluck that moment out and look at the big picture, is it really that bad?
Yeah.
I just loved that.
Yeah. Stephanie, absolutely incredible. Freaking hilarious.
Yes.
Love her.
She's a punk rocker, red hair, like just so much energy, loves to ride her Harleys. Like,
yes. And now single mom of 5.
Yeah.
I mean, she is not what you picture.
And that's what's awesome.
Yes, it is. It is. So without further ado, this episode is for the one who thinks marriage is hard.
Enjoy.
Hey.
Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. We are so excited. You guys, this for the one, the You Are Not Alone series, man, it keeps going and going and going. I mean, at this point, I'm almost wondering if we should say Unlikely Housewives for the one. And because God is just providing throughout all of the craziness that Tracy and I have going on in our everyday lives. But he is so making it happen. So I am going to have Tracy introduce our guest today.
Okay, so today we have with us Stephanie Jordan. She's a mama to 5 children. She's been married, divorced, widowed, and remarried. Complex relationships seem to be her specialty. She homeschools her 2 youngest children and owns a publishing company. Stephanie recently retired from her career as a cosmetologist to pursue her calling as an author, teacher, and speaker. She loves to challenge and cheerlead others to be the best versions of themselves. She is absolutely madly in love with God, and she loves to share about his faithfulness and endless grace and mercy. She loves to mix her message with humor, laughs, and seriousness all together, hence why she is a perfect guest for our show.
Amen.
And shout out to Podmatch for connecting us. We've met so many incredible people through Podmatch. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you ever get this, but I have my own fun pink hair as well.
Oh, yeah.
Not as much as yours, but do you find I have had multiple conversations with people that go, I didn't think I was going to like you because of your hair, because they automatically assume that you have one set of beliefs and are not on the same alignment with you. So for our just listeners, you've got to go check out our video on YouTube and Rumble, because she has got the gorgeous flaming hair with the green and the pink and the orange. I love it.
Like blue and pink and orange.
It is. It is. But
that's awesome.
I love it because it's unexpected. So I love that. Well, welcome to the Unlikely Housewife, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me here. And yes, people, when I was a cosmetologist, I heard all the time, I warned them about what you look like, but I told them that you were the best.
You're like, thank you, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, Tracy's intro, I'm pretty sure we hit all the crises of domestic violence, divorce. And I say that jokingly, but not jokingly. Widow. I mean, you have experienced it all. Can you give us an outline of the or timeline, perhaps, of just a little bit of that, and we can go from there?
Yeah, that's probably a perfect place to start. So I married an alcoholic in 1999. I was 21 years old. We had great sex and a lot of fun, and that was all I cared about at 21 years old. And God had told me not to marry him, but I didn't listen. And we got pregnant in 2001, and he beat me up about 17 days after I took my pregnancy test. And I left him. We never lived together again, but I tried to work the marriage out for 2 years. And I said, God, if you want me to stay married to him for the next 40 years of my life, that's what I'll do, because I made a commitment. But if you can find it in your grace and mercy, please deliver me. And about 2 years after the incident happened, God delivered me from that marriage, and we got a divorce in August of 2003. And about 2 weeks later, I ran into a guy, a punk rocker from the scene, that actually hated me because I was a Christian. And God had met him along the way. And we got married in the summer of 2004. And God actually called me into that marriage, and we fought hard for our marriage. And then in December of 2014, he passed away unexpectedly.
And I know the part of your story before he passed in that fighting. I would love for you to share with our listeners just kind of what God put on your heart in that time.
So, oh man, I'll have to back it up a little bit to 2012 to, I guess, give the broader picture. Our whole marriage had been complex. He was a recovering addict, and early in our marriage, he had a relapse that lasted for about a year, and it nearly destroyed our marriage. But when I tell you that God sealed us and just kept us together and walked us through all of that, I mean, it was so incredible. But it took a toll. It hurt our marriage. And over the years, we we limped at different times to stay together, and God just kept pulling us together and pulling us together. And in 2012, I opened my salon company, and 4 months later, I got pregnant with our fourth baby. And then my back went out, and I was on a walker until I had her. And then after I had her, I had emergency back surgery, and he took great care of me during the season. I couldn't even pick my baby up. So I was breastfeeding her, and I would have to hold her on one side. He'd have to come and flip her for me. We were very integrated during that season, and I had a lot of trauma. And then we got pregnant with baby number 5, and we were both like waving our Wile E. Coyote flag, from the Roadrunner. Like, we give up. We give up. And after she was born, before she was born, before we knew we were pregnant with her, we had agreed to get divorced at the end of 2013. We were like, we can't do it anymore. Like, I was so traumatized by everything that was going on, overwhelmed. He had his own stuff going on, and we were just like, we're done. And then right after New Year's of 2014, I felt a bump bump. And I was like, either that was a baby or that was some heck of some muscle memory. And so I called him and I said, I think I just felt a baby move in my stomach. And he said, are you trying to freak me out? And I was like, well, I'm freaking out. So knock yourself out. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, here she comes. I have my first maternity appointment February 19th of that year, and she was born April 28th.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
Wow. There's a TV show.
Yeah.
That, right? I didn't know I was pregnant.
That's what he said. He said, this is baby number 5. How did you not know you were pregnant? But that's how physically broken I was, right? Like, you're really bad off when you don't even know that you're pregnant. And she never moved until she did, right?
Until she did. Until the
oh my God.
So I'm setting all of that up to say we were in a really rough shape. We had agreed, we were planning on getting divorced. We had baby number 5. I didn't even want him to touch me. I told him he couldn't wash his pants in the same load of my clothes anymore because I was going to get pregnant.
That's amazing. Quit drinking the water in the house. We're done. No more bottled water for everyone.
Yes, that was exactly right. I was like, don't even walk past me anymore.
Right.
I'm gonna get
What did they
up.
say with the old cup? This is an inappropriate joke. I'm sorry. They don't say the sex when you get older is when you walk in the hall and you say F you to F you. That's you're just like, sorry.
That's hilarious.
Inappropriate. I'm just, y'all know me. That's me.
Hilarious.
Okay. Go on. So we're not doing laundry anymore. Physically or metaphorically.
So this is, and I'm setting all that up to say that we were in just really bad shape. I wouldn't even let him touch me. I didn't want him to hold my hand. I wanted a divorce. I wanted to get away, which was my coping mechanism, right? That was my unhealthy coping mechanism, was just get away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so October of that year, he and I went to a conference together with the man that actually led him to Christ. And that Saturday of the conference, God said to me, he said, if you leave him, you will always long for him. And he didn't just say it, but I had this sense of internal dread. Like, I could feel it on my inside that just a dread, this devastation on my inside. And I didn't, of course, know at the time that he was going to pass away 2 months later, but God began to miraculously heal our marriage. And after we got home from that conference, God said, go offer yourself to your husband and do not leave him vulnerable. And I was like, I mean, I told you, I told him he couldn't even wash his clothes with my clothes anymore. I'm like, God, you see this bed? It is full of babies.
Yeah.
This game does not work out for me.
Did you go consider like, okay, well, can I ask him if we can do it on the couch instead? Because
That's right.
The guest room, maybe the guest room.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And so I did what God told me to do. And it was incredible because the next day an old girlfriend showed up at my house while I was at work. And he called me like on my cell phone, on the salon phone. He's like, I didn't know she was coming. I didn't know she was coming. But God knew.
God knew.
And God knew what her heart intention was. And so from that moment, that Saturday, when he told me, if you leave him, you'll always long for him, I started the process of submitting, and Holy Spirit walked me through that in that next 2 months so closely and densely, just like that situation right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have shattered our marriage right before all that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were in such bad shape. I had been rejecting him for so long. He was vulnerable, right?
Yeah. Right.
He was in that state of like, she doesn't love me. She hates me. You know, she doesn't want anything to do with me. She won't even hold my hand, you know, and I had just rejected him and rejected him and rejected him.
Yeah.
And God was like, your rejection is done.
Yeah.
You go get your husband.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I want to just highlight the one some people would say it's a bad word, but that the Holy Spirit walked you through submitting to your husband.
Yeah.
And that has been given such a wrong connotation of weakness. And actually, it's a huge sense of, I mean, there's great power in submitting.
Mm-hmm.
Great power in submitting. And I think women have been fed that lie for too long, that submitting means doormat.
Yeah.
Right.
That is not the case whatsoever.
Yes. To all of what you just said, because he actually, so that was in October, then all this started early December. My kids and I had been gone all day to an event, and he called me and he was like, when are you coming home? I really miss you. And I was like, you miss me? And he was like, yeah, I've been really enjoying you. And he was like, I think I've been enjoying you more lately than I maybe have our whole marriage. And I was like, oh, would you like to know why? And so I told him, and he was like, I can see that. I can see that happening.
That's incredible.
And we know, because we're wives, that it was the Holy Spirit, because the human flesh doesn't always allow us to be lovely.
So true.
It is not. And not only does culture in itself, like, I don't need a man. Like, we are literally raising a generation of women who are like, I don't need you to hold the door for me. I can have a baby without a man. I just need to go to this, this doctor and just get a donor. I don't like, we have created this generation like of women who think that they can live a life of happiness and fulfillment without men. And that's a lie from the pit of hell, because and I'm not saying that you need a man to be happy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that God created us to be partners.
Yes.
And helpmates.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are exceptions to every rule. There are some people that, that God does not have marry for certain purposes, and he's got a plan in specifically for their life. But there are certain times like, no, this is what he created, and it is good. It is an institution that is good. And now, would you say prior to that Saturday when God said, okay, go and be vulnerable to your husband and offer yourself, how was your quote unquote submitting prior to that in the relationship?
I mean, non-existent.
Okay. But that's totally fair. And okay, so then I remember what my question was. My question is how was your husband's relationship with Christ? Because you started this one was that he hated you because you were a Christian. And then we skip forward and you guys got married. So I wanted to know, like, when did he come to Christ? When was his relationship with Christ? And where were you guys both at?
I'm so glad that you said that, because so his whole life's goal was to OD on his 21st birthday. That's the kind of background he came from. He was anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-Christians his whole life. If he could find a way to offend you, he would. That was what he lived for. And
well, you did say punk rock scene. I mean, that does fit it. I mean, and what you said, early 2000s?
In the 90s. We were 90s.
Both in the 90s. Yeah. Yes. So I'm just thinking culturally where we were in the 90s, and that very tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so he hated me. I was the only Christian really in the scene, and he hated me because of that. So instead, God got a hold of him and he got baptized in New Orleans on his 21st birthday.
Wow.
Okay. Now, you weren't part of the scene on his 21st, because, right?
No, we had nothing to do with each other at that time. It wasn't, I think he was about 26, 27. I was 25, 26 when we.
So you met a couple years later, and then all of a sudden he has a relationship with Christ, and you're like,
oh, I thought he was totally hitting on me and full of crap, because I knew who he was, and he asked for my phone number. So we had talked about starting a ministry toward punk rockers, hardcore kids, drug addicts, prostitutes, all that sort of stuff. And he asked for my phone number, and I wanted to throw it off a number, because back then, like,
you could.
You could.
Yeah.
And God wouldn't let me. And we started a ministry together. I had no interest in dating him. I told him, I said, I prayed against him. I was like, God, I'll take any man on the planet but Jay Jordan. And he said, he came over one day and I was like, look, can we just get this whole weird thing over with? I was like, it's never going to happen. I'm not going to date you. So can we just be friends and it not be weird? And he was like, I've never been so embarrassed in my life. And so we had a ministry together, and we were just together all the time. And we, through that, became best friends. And I still was like, this guy's a disaster. And I mean, you can imagine a man that his life's goal was to OD at 21. I mean, he was a disaster. Like, he was still cleaning up from all of that, you know?
Oh, for sure. It doesn't change overnight.
That's right.
I mean, we're still products of the flesh.
And childhood wounds, you know, those are deeply rooted with us forever.
Yeah.
But what you were talking about just a second ago about the partnership. So because God called us to be together, and Jay was teachable, and he was really wise, and he was regal in his spirit. His flesh was weak, but his spirit was incredibly strong. And he listened to me. And because he listened to me, the man he was when we got married and the man that passed away were two completely different human beings. And he taught me more about love than anybody I've ever met. If he's the only love that I ever get, God ordained, he's enough. My heart hopes that there is somebody again for me that God has picked out. And God's told me that he has someone picked out for me. But a love like that, it's enough. It transcends what happens here. And you asked me about his relationship with the Lord. June of 2014, Jay started praying with my kids every night, because he would usually put the kids to bed, that God would heal the broken little girl inside of me. And 8 months after his death, God began to honor that prayer. And let me tell you this, in 2004, when we got married, God gave me the story about Naaman, who came to Elijah for healing. And Naaman said, go wash in the Jordan 7 times and you will be renewed like a young boy. And God used that scripture to confirm to me that I was supposed to marry Jay. And I washed in the Jordan. And 20 years from 2004 to 2024, last year, God completed healing me and fully restoring my entire past.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
And 10 years from his death. It's incredible.
What a testament to a praying spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What a testament. Okay. I'm not going to lie here. Like the snippets of like hearing that Jay's got a regal faith and, you know, his flesh is weak, but a regal, strong faith. He is wise. But your whole marriage with him outside of the last two, like you said, you fought. Like it was, there were good times and there were bad times. And like, I am sure there are times that you both wanted to just walk away. Why? Like, tell us more about that, because I think we have also been sold a bill of goods that the butterflies, love is supposed to be easy and love is just, you know, like it's what, you know, if I have to work at it, this isn't right. Or,
Right.
you know, help me. What are some other, like,
I mean, you're on point, but it's like, okay, you should be happy. Don't go to bed mad. Like, you know,
right. Yes.
It's just natural.
I'm not happy here. I'm miserable. And I, you know, like, I'm not happy with you. I dislike you more than I like you right now. Like, which I would like to say, if we all felt that way, we would all have our children leave the house and kick them out, because apparently we're in the stage of, I don't like you. I love you. I will always love you. But I will turn your butt into the cops as soon as they say something, you did something. Yes. And if they just, you know, anyways, going back to that, like it was tough. Talk about that, because I think too many of us think that like when it's hard, years and years of hard, you're like, I can't do this every day, God.
Yeah.
So I ignorantly, many, many times in my prayer journal was like, God, you got to kill one of us.
You and I are best friends. I'm gonna get her text message, because that no truer state. I don't think I've ever written it down, but I have texted it.
You texted it to God.
I didn't. Yes, I did. Also to my bail money thread. Yeah. And yes, Tracy can attest, I do have a thread of 5 people that are bail money, and they are in various places of the country for good reasons. But God, you're going to have to kill one of us. That's amazing. And so honest. Can we, like we haven't said that before, like, or we've thought it. Housewives, if you're listening to this right now and you're lying to yourself if you haven't thought it. Okay. I love you. But if you haven't, or just running away.
If you haven't thought it, because I've never thought that.
But okay. You've totally thought about like
running away. Sure.
Running away, like this would be so much easier without one of us. Like there's that, like you get to a point in marriage, you're like, oh my gosh, I could do all this. Or like either I want to leave it all, or this would be so much easier if your input was not here.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But okay. Thank you. Go on.
So, yeah, it was an ignorant statement, but I didn't know until I knew, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing with the beauty, I guess, of the struggle and the fight. When you have kids together, you have a lot more to fight for. People that are in like their second and third marriages that don't have that, it's a whole lot harder to fight through the struggle. But when you've built family together, you have something to fight for that really, really matters. And we always respected each other as our kids' parent. even when we didn't like each other as each other's spouse.
That's good.
That is a good statement.
And so y'all will love this. So we came, this was early in our marriage. This was around the time he was relapsing, and we went to a marriage retreat. And we came home not speaking to each other.
Oh boy, that's the truth. That's reality right there.
That's the reality.
Because so many people think marriage retreats you go to, but that's where the digging starts happening. We went to many too, and there were a couple that we didn't come home better. Now gradually we did, but once you're in the digging, it doesn't always work out like, oh, we're happy and this is perfect now. We're going back home with all these great tools. Like, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So that's honest. I like it.
Yes. And when we got to pick up our kids, they were staying at my cousin's house, and we got there to pick them up. And I was like, your daughter wants to see you,
Yeah. All of a sudden when it just becomes their kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it was like, we had to, I guess we compartmentalized at times. If the kids were being disrespectful to us or like to him, I'd be like, you're not going to talk to my husband that way. Like they were, he was no longer their father. Then he was my husband and I was protecting him, and vice versa. He would do the same to me. And then of course, when we were at it, I was like, go get your kids,
Mhm.
And I cannot say it loud enough or hard enough, but bring God into your marriage in every single aspect, because there are going to be times that you're just not on the same page at all. But I can tell you, after losing somebody you're connected to, see, here's the difference. And I talk about this in my book about widowhood. Jesus didn't come to conquer divorce. Okay. He came to conquer death.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody divorce, there is a lot of negative feeling. There is a lot of cynicism. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen in death. When death comes and steals your partner, it wrecks everything. But it will give you a heck of a perspective of the value of that human being in your life. And I think that is probably one thing that women have lost, is the value of having a man in their life. You don't know, woman, how much you're able to accomplish because he's there.
Yeah.
So true.
So true. I want to repeat something that you said, and I really liked it, is that like when the kids were disrespecting him, you said, you're not going to disrespect my husband that way. Not your father, but he as your husband, because the marriage is first.
Yes.
And so it's a whole other, like, that's something I personally am going to try to make better, because we're in the stage of talking back.
No,
of course not.
Angels.
Of course. But I also want it to make, because the other fear for kids, for parenting kids, is like, I don't want to make him look like I'm not jumping in to save him, because he's the head of the household. He's right. Like, so it's not, but it's hey, you're not going to talk to my husband that way. Yeah. So it makes that more level, like even footing. Does that?
Yeah.
Am I communicating that correct? So like that,
you're a partnership.
Yes.
Right. We're still together.
Yeah, we're one. So you're not going to talk to the other half of me in that manner. But I like that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You got to protect your man. And the same way that you want him to protect you, you're protecting him in the same way. It's just different.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that I feel like Jay and I were really good at, is always picking each other. We dropped friends. Like if somebody talked badly about him, I'm like, sorry, I love you, but you got to go. I don't need any more reasons to hate him, and you don't get to talk about it.
Yeah.
So we dropped friends out of our lives. The year that he passed away, when he had his relapse, kind of what sparked that was we had a metal company. He was a welder and fabricator and all that sort of stuff. And he had hired a guy to work with him. And that guy was an old friend that they had used together before, but he was sober and needed a job and la-da-da. And so he started using at the shop. Well, instead of Jay letting me protect him, right? He danced with that line and it took him down. And so that guy, I was like, you can't have anything else to do with him and remain here. Like, you're picking whether you want your family or whether you want that life. But those lives are on two different paths. They do not merge.
Yeah.
And so Jay had dropped that dude. Well, this was, I mean, many years later, the year that he passed away, and that guy called him and he was like, why are you calling me? And the guy goes, you're still married to that beep. And Jay was like, click, and hung up. And years before, Jay would have tried to defend. He would have tried to explain. He would have gotten into all that. And he was like, no, you're not talking to my wife about my wife that way. Like, that's my wife, you know? And so you have to have each other's backs. Like, the people in it, you don't need any more reason to dislike your spouse. Shed off anybody that is not in that unity because you're not in covenant with them.
Yeah, so good.
That is really good. Okay, so how, like, my thing is, how can we encourage those that are going through the tough times? Like, keep going. I mean, it's not all rainbows and unicorns marriage-wise. Like, again, I think Ronald Reagan, I think at the end of his life, he says that one of the biggest mistakes he ever made was no-fault divorce in the state of California, and just made the process, quote unquote, too easy for people to walk away. But like, again, like you said, like, there were more days that you all didn't like each other than you were in love and wonderful and having, amazing relations. I can say sex. I don't know why I said. I don't know why I said relations. That was not me. I don't know. But you can also have amazing sex and totally be mad at the person. Like,
yeah,
right? Totally.
Absolutely.
That's also, maybe that's why I said. Okay, so yeah, how do we encourage those that are in the middle of the hard and that are contemplating the divorce and like going, you know what, this is not what this is supposed to look like?
Okay, so I have to touch on sex just for a second, because I feel like that's where a lot of women get into a really nasty place. My rule was you can have it anytime, anywhere, 5 minutes or less if I don't have to take my shoes off.
I like it.
So if you can get to it without me having to undress, knock yourself out, 5 minutes or less, anytime you got it. So I recommend that to women.
Did he have this? Did you have the same rule for him? Like, did he have the same rule for you? Like, could you ask for it anytime you wanted 5 minutes or less, as long as he didn't have to take his shoes off?
Oh, he rejected me one time, and that was it.
Okay, right?
Because I was like, oh no, pal, this didn't work. This is not a one-way party.
Okay.
So
talk more about that in a little bit. Go ahead.
So toward the end of our marriage, like, I could just text him a peach and an eggplant, and here he came. Here he went,
That's the best part about the new version of,
I was going to say nudity
gifts.
or what?
No, smart or gifts on a smartphone. It's just, you can hint and imply and have a full-on conversation before he even gets home.
Yes, that's exactly right. So here's the thing. Even if you hate him, you need to be having sex, because sex is a binder. It is biology. It is spiritual. It is so much more than just a physical act. Yeah. And you are the only place he can get it, and he's the only place you can get it, and still keep that sanctified. So if you're withholding it, you are in the wrong. You're in the wrong. I don't care how you want to justify it. You are in the wrong, because he can have a conversation. He can go golfing with his buddies. He can ride motorcycles with them. He can't be having sex with them. You can go shopping with your girlfriends. You can coffee, you can lunch, you can brunch, you can ride motorcycles, whatever. But that is the only thing that the two of you totally are locked in together with. And you just have to be willing. There's a place of obedience to God that comes before even obedience to your husband, and that is part of it. So I would say my willingness not to withhold that helped us through a lot of some glitches.
Yeah.
Because had I shut everything down, and I mean, y'all, we had 5 kids. Like, I was always scared I was going to get pregnant again.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
Birth
reason
control or not.
Yeah.
And so, that is my first thing, is that has to be open. And I tell women now, I'm like, that I know are having issues with their husbands. I'm like, get naked. You need to be naked. If you're in your bedroom, you need to be naked. And they're like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, because you've lost your ability to be vulnerable. You're afraid of vulnerability. And if you're the only one that can become unafraid of vulnerability, regardless of what happens to you.
Yeah.
And so when you're in those, you have to know it's a season, right? Nobody stays in that forever. Now, I do want to preface this because I do come from a domestic violence background, and I do come from some wackadoo stuff. We are not talking about abusive patterns. We are talking about healthy marriages that are going through hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not talking about somebody harming you, hurting you, making you terrified, abusing you. We are not talking about that. That's a whole nother thing. But ladies, if you got a good dude and you just don't like him because he's a dude and he annoys you, hang in there. Keep fighting for it. There's a lot of moments that life happens. And when you give up too early, a lot of times you'll steal your own blessing.
That's good.
That is really good.
Proverbs says a foolish woman tears her own house down with her own hands.
That's wow. Yeah. Let's go back to the domestic abuse, like the differences. Okay. But can you give some examples of what, I mean, again, there's so many, like, sexual harassment nowadays is if somebody's hitting on you at the office and they're not cute. Right? Like that's what,
right.
So I think things are defined so differently. Culturally, things have defined. But as far as what biblically domestic abuse, can you give us what that is and what, because again, I don't want somebody to be misled by what culture is telling them is, well, your husband shouldn't be doing that. Your husband should just be doing, he should be supporting you on whatever you do. Like, he's not this, and he's not just giving you all the money in the, like, can you kind of give us a little bit of what a definition is on those two things?
Well, I would like to say that, interestingly, my marriage with my husband that beat me up was actually way better than my marriage with my late husband. As far as like us getting along and having a good time together, we adored each other. Like, divorcing him was like ripping off my arms and my legs. It was absolutely devastating. So just because your marriage is hard doesn't mean that it's not good.
Yeah.
Because our marriage was good until it was really bad. And then my marriage with my late husband was really hard, but it was the best thing I've ever had. So I think sometimes we equate easy and fun with good and great, and that's not always the case. So for me personally, I mean, there were always signs with my first husband. He has passed away too. He passed away in 22 of alcoholism.
Yeah.
But there were always signs, he would pitch fits. We got into a fight one night and he moved all my stuff out into the front yard, being a jerk. And he would throw dishes and things like that, but he had never hurt me. And I just overlooked all that stuff. I mean, we were punk rockers, like doing ridiculous stuff was not, I mean, I loved, it wasn't out of the norm. That's exactly right. I loved punk rock antics. Like I was totally into that at that age. And so I just didn't think it was a big deal. And then it actually happened twice. The first time it happened was completely different than the second time it happened. But it was, I thought he was going to kill me. And I guess he really could have killed me that night had God not protected me. And it was really my son. I have to say it was my son being pregnant that gave me the strength to leave. I still, as strong of a personality as I've always been, I still don't know that I would have left had I not been pregnant. But I knew I couldn't let him hurt my baby.
Yeah.
And, I hear women say all the time, like, well, if a man ever hit me, I would. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Women are nurturer by nature. When you have committed your life to somebody and you have started to build a life, you wouldn't. And so my definition of abuse, it started the first time he ever threw a pan to make me scared. But I accepted those things and I overlooked those things. But over time, I would say you shouldn't be afraid of your spouse. I was never afraid of Jay. Jay was gigantic. He was 6'3", nearly 400 pounds. His hand was the size, like his fist was the size of my face. And he could be dramatic and ridiculous. And I knew he would never have hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
I was never afraid of him. And so if you are afraid, even if your man pitches fits, even if he acts like a total.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking a total actual fear of safety. Like that's what you're talking about, like not walking on eggshells, like, don't want to trip him, make him angry or a little rage bait, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like complete fear.
Right. Yeah. If you know that he would potentially really harm you, that's an entirely different scenario. Because when Jay and I fought, I never was afraid that he would actually do something to harm me. Now, he might break a television or, one of our first fights, he knocked out his Explorer window with a weed whacker. I mean, he was dramatic. I called him the king of drama, but I was never afraid of him.
So that's really an internal, that's an internal judgment piece. Right. Because I think that, and again, I'm not saying that it is not true and that there aren't exceptions. Again, I think that our culture has overused the word narcissist. I think that it is starting to overdiagnose, if you will, personality, personas, or just things that we don't agree with, or we think is too much, or not enough, and on both sides. But as far as like when somebody says, well, this is emotional abuse, that still, like, how does that play in do you feel that your first husband played on the emotional abuse side, or was it that you knew him throwing something that made you physically afraid for, like, oh, he could really hit me. Like that frying pan could land and hit my head. But but obviously during good times when you guys had fun and you were getting, like there was nothing emotional about that. Like,
right.
am I presenting this in a way that is clear? I don't know.
Yeah. So you can have the exact same behaviors. Ben throwing a pot led to him beating my face. Jay throwing a pot led to him never harming me. Does that make sense? Like same behaviors, completely different heart intentions on what it meant toward me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's, I think, what we're talking about when we talk about abusive stuff. There's a difference between a man being physical. Men are physical. I don't know why more of them don't have black eyes walking around, because they should. You know, like men are physical. They need a physical outlet. They need to be blowing things up and killing things and breaking things. That's how they were designed by God. It is not wrong. It's beautiful. And we need to encourage more of it. But what happens is when we are their only tender spots, that's it. The chicks, the wife is the only tender spot, the wife and the kids. If you want to hurt a man, that's what you go after, is his wife and his kids. He could care less about himself. God designed that for a reason and a purpose. And so when a man is angry and he's acting out physically, that doesn't mean that he may actually harm you physically. But if you are afraid that he may harm you physically because you don't feel safe with him inherently, that is an entirely different situation. I knew that Jay could have torn our whole house down. He would have rebuilt it the next day to make sure I had a bed.
Yeah.
You know, like that. So that was the difference. Like, because I came into my marriage when I first met Jay, because of my domestic violence background, and he was such a big man and I had my son, I would not even let him come to my house. And he begged me. He was like, Stephanie, I would never hurt you. And I was like, I hear those words, but I
don't believe you.
Right. Yeah.
And he was just patient and gracious, and he waited it out and he stuck it out. And eventually I let him come around, and 10 and a half years, 11 years later, all through our marriage, he could still say the same thing. I would never hurt you. And he didn't. I know there were times he wanted to.
Yes.
I know there were times that he was just like, shut up, you know?
Well, that's what I want to say. Jordan Peterson is saying that men are inherently dangerous. They have to be. What makes them who they are is their level of self-control.
Yes.
I want to know that my husband can beat the crap out of anybody who tries to break into this house or hurt me or the girls. Absolutely. I want to know that he has that within him.
That's
and
right.
I also want to know that he has the self-control to, when I say something or do something completely, stupid or whatever, that he doesn't just take his
Daily.
Yes, daily. Exactly.
I love it.
And I know. And take his hands around my, that's self-controlled. And that also is so, but I want to thank you for that perspective, because one, that is a unique perspective to have both of those types of husbands and have completely different experiences, and know that one very much was a boundary, like, no, I got to get out. This will be the end of me. And one was like, no, I'm safe here. I'm fighting it here.
And that's the one that you had a covenant with the Lord in. And that is the one
that's
thing.
True. Yeah.
You go back, and I mean, before you even said it, was just that how that marriage was anointed on such a whole different level compared to the first one. And you honored that all the way till his end. And I think that's just absolutely beautiful. And I think that's ultimately what, we want as wives, and in marriages, we want to be able to, say that we are doing everything we can to not just stay married, but to have a full marriage. And that is, it takes work. But I think that's what we're all here for. and admitting that it's hard, but admitting that it's beautiful and the same.
Yeah. And your story presents that perfect. I mean, you saying that it was so much harder, but it was so much more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like just that your second, I mean, that is just a beautiful testimony to marriage.
It really is. I can't, just talking with you guys, I'm like, gosh, I need to write a book called Marriage from the Widow's Perspective.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because
we'll write the foreword. And, and we'll just, it'll be great. We'll promote it on the podcast for you.
Yeah, because it truly, hindsight, right? Hindsight. When you're in your marriage, you don't have the ability to disconnect yourself to look at the hindsight and be like, you know what? That situation just wasn't that bad. Like, I'm still mad about it because I don't even know why. And it just wasn't that bad. But when that person is there, when that person is gone and you can't ever even talk about it to them again, you're like, God, that just doesn't matter. You don't find yourself talking to anybody else about it. You just want to rag your husband about it just because he's still there to rag him about.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't that big of a deal. And the only reason you got snagged there is because he's still there.
Yeah. That's so good. You're stuck on a snag.
You're stuck on a snag. Yes. And it's like, if he wasn't there, the snag wouldn't be there anymore. And so it just wouldn't matter. And if you could just remove him out of that snag and lay that snag down to God and be like, God, I don't know why I got stuck here, but you're going to have to filter it. And I'm plucking my husband out of this and I'm not holding him to that space anymore. I'm going to let him be free. And I want to be free, and I want to be free to love him. And I want him to be free to love me.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I just want to mention briefly before we wrap up here is just that throughout your entire story, you talked about you knew God didn't want you to marry your first husband. And then you heard God very clearly about Jay, and he spoke very clearly. And I want to also encourage housewives that if you do not have that relationship with God, you can't hear him.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the Bible says, you don't know what is the voice of God. And you also don't know what is the voice of the enemy. And there's so often we can be tricked. So I just want to, that was like the secret key is like to you knew the voice of God, and you knew, and you heard your shepherd's voice and you knew him, and you knew it was him. And anybody else could have written it off as, well, that's a terrible idea. You know what I mean? Like
everybody did.
Right.
Because he looked like such a disaster. He was the Jordan River. Naaman is like, have you seen the Jordan? Like,
yes, it's gross.
It's gross. No way.
Disgusting. Yes.
There are 15 other rivers around here. I'm not going in the Jordan.
So,
but that's where God's dwelling place was.
She's so good.
She is so good. And it's crazy that her last name is Jordan.
Yes.
I know. That's how I actually found out is I was researching Jordan in the Bible. Yeah. And all I could find was it was God's dwelling place.
That's amazing.
God, it's so cool. Yeah. I mean, anybody that doesn't think that he has like, come on, he's dropping Easter eggs all over the place. Taylor Swift ain't got nothing on him. I mean, seriously, he just is leaving them all. So, well, Stephanie, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, your vulnerability, your story, for you continuing to share your story. Please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can get your books, and if they want to know more, where they connect with you.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to hanging out with you guys. So you can go onto my website, thestephaniejordan.com, and I'm on all the socials at @thestephaniejordan. And my books are on Amazon, and the Narcissistic Bride of Christ has just come out on Audible. So Hopefully I'll have the other 2 soon on Audible, but that one is definitely there. And yeah, message me. I'm happy to talk.
Awesome. And we'll have all those links for you guys in the show notes. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Until next time, housewives. Bye.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes. And be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.